Hey, my name is Kylie Smith, and today I'm going to talk about something really important in healthcare: conflict, workplace violence, and negotiation. This is the topic I chose to write about for my scholarly research paper here in my leadership class. I've learned that while healthcare is all about helping people, it can also be a really stressful place to work. With so many different people like nurses, doctors, patients, and families all under pressure, it's easy for arguments or misunderstandings to happen. But if those problems aren't handled the right way, they can turn into something more serious like workplace violence. So today I'm going to walk through the different types of conflict we see in healthcare, what causes violence at work, and how good leadership and strong communication can make all the difference. I'll also talk about how negotiation is a helpful skill for both leaders and regular staff to have. Working in the healthcare community is rewarding, but it can also be challenging. There are constant decisions to make, patients to take care of, and not a lot of time to stop and process emotions. So it's no surprise that conflict often occurs. Conflict can pop up between coworkers, managers, or even patients and staff. When those situations are ignored or handled badly, they can lead to violence at work. This could be yelling, threats, or even physical attacks. Violence not only affects the people involved, but it also creates a really unsafe environment for everyone in the hospital or clinic. The good news is that strong leadership can help prevent these situations. Leaders who stay calm, communicate well, and support their staff can really change the way a team handles problems. In this presentation, I want to show how conflict and violence are connected and how being proactive and respectful can lead to safer and more positive workplaces. There are actually three main types of conflict in healthcare. First, there's intrapersonal conflict, which happens within a person. This could be from stress or guilt for making a tough decision or feeling overwhelmed with work. Nurses especially deal with this kind of pressure every day. Then there's interpersonal conflict, which is between person to person. Maybe two co-workers don't get along, or there's a misunderstanding between a nurse and a supervisor. This is probably the type of conflict we see most often. The third type is intergroup conflict. This happens between departments, like if one unit blames another for something or there's competition over resources or staff. But the thing is, not all conflict is bad. Functional conflict can actually lead to better teamwork and new ideas. It's only when conflict becomes negative or dysfunctional that it starts hurting relationships and making the workplace toxic. Leaders need to figure out what kind of conflict is happening and how serious it is before they can step in and help. Workplace violence is sadly becoming more common in healthcare systems. This includes yelling, threats, or bullying, and even physical harm. A lot of people think of violence as just physical, but emotional and verbal abuse are just as damaging. There are two types of workplace violence that are especially important to know: horizontal violence and vertical violence. Horizontal violence happens between coworkers. This could be gossip, being rude on purpose, or ignoring someone's thoughts and ideas. Vertical violence is when someone in a higher position, like a manager, mistreats someone lower down, or when patients or family members threaten or attack staff. Both of these types of violence are serious and can affect how safe people feel at work. When violence is ignored or not reported, it can create fear and cause burnout or even people quitting their jobs. This is why it is so important that healthcare leaders recognize the warning signs and do something about it right away. There are a lot of reasons why violence happens in the healthcare system. One big one is emotions. Patients and families might be scared, angry, or in pain, and they sometimes take that out on the staff. Understaffing is another major issue. When there isn't enough people working, the stress level goes way up. Nurses and techs do not have time to calm people down or stop problems before they get worse. Some patients have mental health problems or substance abuse issues, and they may not be able to control their behavior. These patients are more likely to become aggressive, especially in places like the ER or psychiatric units. On top of this, many hospitals do not do enough training about how to deal with violent situations. If the staff doesn't know what to do or does not feel supported, they're more at risk for workplace violence. It is really important that leaders create clear policies and make sure staff know exactly what steps to take when things are starting to get dangerous. In this way, everyone feels more prepared and protected. Leaders in healthcare have a huge impact on how conflict and violence are handled. The best leaders know how to spot problems early and take action before things get out of hand. One of the most important things a leader can do is communicate clearly. That means setting expectations, explaining policies, and following through if those policies are broken. Leaders should also make sure their staff feel comfortable speaking up. If someone is being bullied or feels unsafe, they need to know their concerns will be taken seriously. Another big part of leadership is staying calm. When a leader is under pressure but stays cool and collected, the team is more likely to stay calm too. This helps stop conflict from spreading. Leaders who check in with their staff, ask how they're doing, and take time to listen build trust. And when there's trust, teams are more likely to work together and support each other. Negotiation. Sometimes conflict cannot be avoided, but it can be managed through negotiation. There are two types of negotiation to know about. Distributive negotiation is kind of like a competition, where one person wins and the other loses. This could work in certain situations, but it is not the best for teamwork. The next type of negotiation is integrative negotiation. It is more about finding a solution where everyone is the winner. This kind of negotiation is based on listening, respecting, and working together to fix the problem. In healthcare, leaders use negotiation all the time to settle disputes, fix scheduling issues, or calm down tense situations. To be good at negotiation, leaders need to be self-aware, respectful, and open-minded. They also need to really listen to what others are saying, not just push their own ideas. When negotiation is done well, it can turn a conflict into a learning opportunity, and that makes the whole team stronger. Healthcare managers. Healthcare managers need to check in regularly with their staff, watching for signs of stress, frustration, or conflict. They can use surveys, meetings, or just casual conversations to keep track. Managers also have to make sure there are clear rules and expectations. Things like reporting violence, what behavior is okay and what is not, and what happens if someone breaks the rules. Just having rules is not enough. They need to be talked about often and followed through with every time. Consistency is what builds trust. Another big responsibility for managers is trainings. Staff should have regular education on how to deal with violence, how to report it, and how to support one another. And when managers join in those trainings, it shows they care. Managers also need to advocate for their team, whether it's getting more staff, better equipment, or safer policies. When staff see their manager standing up for them and taking time out of their day to care for them and their best interest, it really makes a difference. Healthcare workers. Healthcare workers are on the front lines, so it is important that they know how to handle conflict and violence. One of the best things workers can do is communicate in a calm and respectful way, even when things get tense. Listening, then responding helps avoid misunderstandings. Workers should feel comfortable reporting problems, whether it's bullying, threats, or just something that feels off. Reporting helps prevent issues from getting worse. Being a good teammate is also key. Check on your coworkers, offer help when needed, and don't be afraid to speak up if you see something wrong. Understanding the policies and knowing what resources are available, like counseling or safety tools, can help workers feel more secure. When workers feel supported and informed, they're less stressed and more focused on providing good care for patients. This is why trainings and teamwork are so important within the healthcare systems. To sum everything up, conflict and violence in healthcare are real challenges, but they're not impossible to deal with. It all starts with understanding the types of conflict, whether it's personal, between people, or between teams. Then, we need to look at the causes of workplace violence, like stress, short staffing, and lack of training. The most important part is how we respond. Leaders and managers have a big role in creating safe, respectful environments. They need to set the example, create clear policies, and give their teams the tools they need to succeed. Regular staff like nurses, CNAs, or techs can also make a big difference by supporting each other, speaking up, and practicing good communication. At the end of the day, healthcare is all about teamwork. When everyone does their part, we can reduce conflict, prevent violence, and create a better space for patients and staff. And these are all of my references. Thank you.